She was born in a small forgotten corner of Germany where the streets were quiet, but life was never easy, and from the very beginning she understood what it meant to have nothing, but still breathe every morning with hope even when hope had no reason to stay. Her childhood was not filled with toys or laughter that lasts, but with empty rooms, cold winters, and a silence that felt heavier than words. She lived with her mother, who struggled every single day to bring food home, and sometimes the only meal was bread and water. But even in that broken world the girl carried something inside her that no poverty could take away, a quiet fire that refused to die. As she grew older the world around her became even harsher. School was not a place of comfort for her, it was a place where she felt invisible. Teachers rarely noticed her, classmates rarely spoke to her, and slowly she began to believe that maybe she did not matter, but life had already written something deeper inside her soul, a strength that would only reveal itself through pain. When she turned 16, everything collapsed. Her mother fell sick and could no longer work, and suddenly the burden of survival fell on her young shoulders. She left school not because she wanted to, but because she had to. She started working small jobs, cleaning floors, washing dishes, carrying boxes, anything that could bring a few euros home. At night, she would sit beside her mother, holding her hand, promising silently that she would never let them fall completely into darkness. Years passed like heavy stones, one after another. She moved through life without direction, without comfort, without dreams that felt real. She lived in small rented rooms, sometimes even shelters. When money ran out there were nights when she slept hungry, and days when she walked for hours just to save bus fare. But even in those moments, she never stopped observing people. She watched how others lived, how they laughed, how they had homes that felt warm, and she made a silent promise to herself that one day she would not just survive, she would rebuild everything from nothing. When her mother passed away the world became even quieter for her. It felt like the last piece of her heart had been taken away, and for weeks she could not even speak properly. She wandered through the city, like a shadow invisible to everyone around her. She had no family, left no support, no direction, and slowly, she found herself on the streets of Frankfurt, sleeping in shelters, waiting in food lines, trying to disappear from a world that never truly saw her. But something strange happens when a person has nothing left to lose. They begin to see life differently. She started talking to other homeless people, hearing their stories, understanding their pain, and for the first time she realized she was not alone in suffering. There were hundreds like her, invisible, broken, forgotten, but still breathing, still hoping, still surviving. One winter night when the temperature dropped dangerously low, she met an old woman in a shelter who shared her last piece of bread with her. That simple act of kindness changed something inside her. It was the first time in years she felt human again, and that night she cried silently, not from sadness but from a strange awakening. The next morning she woke up with a decision. She would not stay trapped in this cycle. She began volunteering at the same shelter where she stayed. At first, she only helped clean and serve food. But slowly she started organizing things, speaking to people, helping newcomers feel less lost. She discovered that even without money or status, she still had value. Months turned into years, and she became known in that small shelter as the girl who never gave up on anyone. She listened to stories of addiction, loss, violence, and abandonment, and instead of turning away, she leaned in closer. Every story added weight to her heart, but also purpose. One day a social worker noticed her dedication and offered her a small opportunity to train in community support work. It was not easy. She had to study while continuing her volunteer work, and sometimes she doubted herself, thinking she was too broken to learn anything new. But she remembered the nights on the streets, the hunger, the silence, and she pushed forward. Slowly, she transformed. Education became her ladder out of darkness. She learned how to support homeless families, how to guide people back into society, how to connect them with resources, and every step she took felt like rebuilding the pieces of her own past. Years later, she was no longer the invisible girl sleeping in shelters. She had become a respected social worker in Frankfurt, helping hundreds of people find shelter, food, and hope. But the most powerful moment of her journey was not her success. It was when she returned to the same shelter where she once slept. She stood there in front of new faces, holding warm meals, and she saw herself in their eyes. She did not speak for a moment. She simply placed the food down and smiled, and in that silence, every broken piece of her past finally felt like it had meaning. But she did not stop there. She knew the system was not enough, so she started a small foundation with the help of local supporters, a place where homeless people could not only eat and sleep, but also learn skills, find jobs, and rebuild dignity. She named it after her mother, because everything she had become started from the love and sacrifice of that one woman. The foundation grew slowly at first, then wider than she ever imagined. People from across Germany began supporting her story. She was invited to speak at events not as a victim, but as a voice for those still unheard. And every time she spoke, she reminded people that homelessness is not just about losing a house, it is about losing belief in yourself. Years turned into a new life. She now walked through streets not as someone who was lost, but as someone who was guiding others out of the same darkness she once lived in. And sometimes late at night when the city became quiet, she would stand outside the shelter and look at the sky, remembering the cold nights, the empty stomach, the silent tears, and she would whisper softly to herself that pain did not end her, it built her. Her journey was not a miracle, it was a choice repeated every single day, the choice to keep going when everything said stop, the choice to care when the world ignored her, the choice to become light in places where there was only darkness. And in the end, her story became more than just survival. It became a message that even from the lowest point a human life can rise again, and sometimes the people who have nothing become the ones who give everything.